session, this is the last, I think this is what, number 5 or something, 4. I would like to implant this idea that we want to please Prabhupada, and we can please him by taking the holy name properly. That is one of the greatest services we can do. And so if you want to develop some resolute determination or make some commitment or vow today because you're feeling devotion to Prabhupada, or you want to pay him back, indebtedness, this is one of the best ways to pay him back, by taking the holy name properly, because this is really his gift. Imagine you gave someone a very special gift and they never used it. You spent a lot of money, a lot of time finding the right gift, and you went to their house and you saw they never even took it out of the box. Or maybe they took it out of the box, but you can tell they really didn't use it. How would you feel? Disappointed. And so, this is the greatest gift that Prabhupada has given us. And if we want to make him happy, we should use it. And use it well. One time when Prabhupada was in Atlanta, they said, Prabhupada, what pleases you the most? And it was a book distributor who asked the question, so it was a loaded question. Because he wanted Prabhupada to say, distribute my books, that will please me the most. Prabhupada must have known that, and Prabhupada said, what pleases me the most is if you love Krishna. So I think by extension we can say what pleases him the most is if we take the processes that will develop love of Krishna and do them well, the processes that he gave us, that will please him. And these days are special because on these days we can go deeper in our relationship with Srila Prabhupada, because we're meditating on him all day. We're feeling separation. This is the day he left. And so it's a really good day to magnify your devotion, magnify your feelings, magnify your dedication, and magnify your adherence to what Prabhupada gave. That's it. I don't have anything else to say. After that, I can't say anything more. This is the gift. This is the greatest gift that Prabhupada has given us. Don't misuse it. Don't let it collect dust. Take it out and use it. That will be your greatest service. And because if you take it out and use it, you will develop Krishna consciousness, and that's what will please Prabhupada and Krishna. And as I said earlier, or maybe I didn't, don't make the work of your spiritual master difficult. He's trying to pull you out of the material world and take you back to God. He's assisting Prabhupada because that's Prabhupada's mission, to take everyone back to Godhead. He's assisting. So your spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, they want you to go back to Godhead. It's part of our service, is to take the instructions they've given us that will get us back to Godhead. Follow them as a reciprocation. And what's so interesting about the so-called reciprocation is the instructions are for our benefit. It's not for anyone else's benefit but our own. So we can say we're doing this for Prabhupada, but ultimately we're doing it for ourselves. Right? Where's your car? Oh, there it is. Wow. Mm. So now I have a question for you. Do you love yourself enough to chant good japa every day? The culmination of this seminar is for you to say yes. And if you don't feel you can say yes tonight, then try to say yes tomorrow night or the next week's. We have to say yes to this question. We have to work our way. If we're not there yet, we have to work our way up to say yes. Because when we say yes, we're going to have good japa every day. Because we love ourselves too much to allow ourselves to chant bad japa. Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And I love Prabhupada too much to not fully utilize the gift that he gave me. The gift of the holy name. So two things going for us. We love Prabhupada too much not to use the gift, and we love ourselves too much to not use the gift or to misuse it. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I feel so grateful that I was able to be with Prabhupada. And just by being with him, just a little bit, I could learn so much about him and what was his desire. And as we were saying earlier, it's easy to understand what Prabhupada's desire is, because what did he do right up to the end of his life? And what an inspiration that is, isn't it? Do you ever wonder how it was that 20-year-olds spread ISKCON, spread this movement all over the world? Like, by 1975, they had castles all over Europe, right? 300 devotees in New Mayapur, and it's just crazy. Prabhupada was so compassionate that he made tremendous amounts of self-sacrifice and did tremendous austerities. And this was our general walking in front of us, setting the example. So what do you think we did? We tried to do the same thing. We tried to sacrifice for the welfare of others. That's why we were so successful. Because Prabhupada was the personification of sacrifice out of compassion to help people. He just wanted to go everywhere. He had a globe, and where are we going next? So if Prabhupada think about going to Russia or China, it was like his highest ecstasy. Going to communist countries was Prabhupada's highest bliss. Where it was the most difficult, where it was the most atheistic, that was the most relishable for Prabhupada. And so that was the example that we had, and that's the example we followed, and that's why we were so successful. We made a lot of sacrifices, and that's how anything grows, especially in the beginning, it's through sacrifice. So we made those sacrifices, and we made them willingly, but it was because we had this person in front of us doing it. The soldier was on the battlefield. The general was on the battlefield. Yeah. So let us remember Prabhupada's compassion. I'll tell you a story. There's a huge, huge television show in Mexico, probably the biggest. 2-3 million people would watch the show. That was before YouTube, so it's just the show and that's it. You don't get to see it again. It's always, everything's live, right? So 2-3 million people live is big. So at the last minute, the host of the show called at 10 o'clock at night. He said, "You can come tonight." So it meant like they're going to drive like 45 minutes and do the show like at 11 or midnight, and they're going to get back at like 1 or 2. And, it's like Prabhupada's going to take a little snack and then go to sleep. And then the news comes. And so the temple president says, I understand that this is really will inconvenience you. It's late, you're hungry, we'll go to bed late. And Prabhupada said, one thing he said, we can sleep later. It's nice to remember, when there's an opportunity to speak to 2 million people, you can just say, okay, I'm tired, but I'll sleep later. But Prabhupada said, if I thought, the devotee said, I don't want to inconvenience you, so Prabhupada said, if I thought of my convenience, I wouldn't do anything. I couldn't do any preaching. Because it's basically all pretty much inconvenient. Fly here, 3 days here, go here. New bedroom every night, Speaking to people who are challenging you, like, if you're speaking to non-devotees, you're getting challenged all the time. So, that was Prabhupada's mood, because he wanted to spread Krishna consciousness. He felt for the suffering of people, and that's what drove him. So it wasn't about convenience or what I like or whatever. It was just this is what he did. And so this is the example that can be. This is the example behind all these devotees. You ever see some devotees? They work so hard, and you think, why are they working so hard? It's nonstop. Like Indradumna Swami, one big festival, 2 days later is another one, it's like it doesn't stop. And people will say, I think he should slow down a little bit, take care of himself, But it's like that example of Prabhupada, it was in front of us. That's what he said, right to the last moment. So we're getting older, but we're pushing. We just keep going. That's what Prabhupada did. So maybe today some of that will rub off on you. That would be good. Some of that, like we say, what is the mission of ISKCON? It's really compassion. That's really what it is. And it's compassion, and I think it's also becoming sadhus. It's really important that we become sadhus, that we manifest Vaishnava qualities, and that is make Prabhupada proud. If you become pure, you will make Prabhupada proud. That my grand disciples, they're sadhus. They have such good qualities. That will make Prabhupada happy. That is Prabhupada's mission. We're compassionate, and we manifest the qualities of a Vaishnava. When Prabhupada saw devotees manifesting the qualities of a Vaishnava, he was really, really happy. He was really, really pleased. And when he saw them fighting and arguing, he was really upset. But if a devotees had a disagreement and one of the devotees would apologize, Prabhupada would acknowledge that devotee. You did the right thing, that's beautiful. I'm so happy you did that and you solved this dispute or this disagreement by your humble behavior. That is Krishna consciousness. Made him happy when he'd see devotees do that. And devotees fight, as Prabhupada said, it just gives me a headache. Just headache. Prabhupada said, we've come for eternal bliss, and now we have eternal headache. That was in Juhu. But it bothered Prabhupada very much when devotees didn't get along. So that's something to remember. And I always, if I ever give a class on cooperation, I'll always make this point that you may not want to get along and it may be difficult, but if you don't, it's hurting Prabhupada. And if you do, it's pleasing him. So that's something important to remember. And there are many examples we could give that would substantiate this, but just for now, that's something to take with you today. Can I be a sadhu? Can I be compassionate? Can I be cooperative? That's what we need. That's what will make this movement successful, and that's what will please Prabhupada. Yes? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Govinda Dev, I said, how long should I go? He said, as long as you want, which could be dangerous. So that's what I wanted to say. But if anyone else wants to say anything or ask a question, then yes.
Srila Prabhupada came with 64 rounds and we barely surviving with 16.
Yeah.
In your opinion, does he expect from us that we will develop the taste for?
Yeah. That's a really good question. Because if we look at the progress of the Krishna conscious movement, it's easy to say that, well, it seems like for many devotees 16 is going to be impossible. But there's one thing to understand, is that Prabhupada didn't really expect that everyone would get initiated or everyone had to get initiated. I think that's more something we took from the beginning because everyone was getting initiated and just continued it. But there are statements with him, that we're going to spread Krishna consciousness. We don't expect everyone will get initiated. And so if someone couldn't follow, then Prabhupada had no problem with them. He wouldn't force them to get initiated. In fact, if they did get initiated but couldn't follow, then he would say, well, why did you get initiated if you couldn't follow? It's like, it's not a problem if you can't follow, it's just a problem if you vow to follow and then you don't. So I think that's important to recognize. And I think it was kind of like in the military you have I don't know what you call them in your country, but we have in Navy, we call them the SEALs, Navy SEALs. In the Marines or Army, they call them the Green Beret. It's a special troop, The Navy SEALs training is like, you don't sleep for like 4 days or something crazy, Have any Navy SEALs here? It's like most people, like in the middle of it, they just give up. Or they want to give up. It's so hard. So I think, initiation is a little bit like that. And it's not meant for everybody, but it's meant for those who really want to go for it. And so we should understand that. And if you want to get initiated and you take initiation, what it means is that your lifestyle now has to change to support your vows. And what can happen, dangerous, huh? And what can happen is, that you make a vow, but you don't understand all the lifestyle changes you'll have to make to support it. And if you don't make them, or if you make them and don't consistently keep them, then you run into this problem. You get the job, starts at 7, come back at 7 at night, you're burned out, you don't get to bed early, you get up late, no rounds. That whole thing. And so, when you make a vow, you have to consider how your life is going to be lived, because if you're not careful, you'll put yourself in a situation where you can't follow the vow. Like if you're an alcoholic and you're in the 12-step program, you don't go to parties where there's alcohol. You can't be in that environment. You can't have friends that are drinking. At least you can't be around them when they're drinking. So, I feel that Prabhupada didn't think it was difficult if we created the right environment. And I think that's where we run into problems. It's difficult to do if you don't have the right lifestyle to support it. But he had a lot of faith in 16 rounds, because that's what he negotiated with Krishna, as far as I can tell. Because Prabhupada's saying you'll go back to Godhead, so it sounds like some negotiation, it's on sale. Back to Godhead, it's on sale for 16 rounds. It used to be 64. That's only a quarter of the price. You go to buy your Mercedes, normally it's 100,000 euros, now it's 25,000. And if you went in and you said, could you make it a little cheaper, they'd just kick you out. right? So, Prabhupada, do we have to chant 16? Can you make it cheaper? And Prabhupada said, that's the cheapest, that's the lowest price I can give you. And from Prabhupada's perspective, it's a very low price. Maybe from our perspective, it's a high price. But from his perspective, it's a low price. But I think if someone wants to be Krishna conscious in this life, if someone wants to go back to God in this life, if someone sees this rare opportunity, sees it and seizes it, wants to take it, they'll figure out how to follow the principles and chant their rounds because it's important to them. So I'm on my 54th year now. Well, in January, around January 20th is when I started chanting 16 rounds. So January 20th, it'll be 54 years. So we're like over 53 and a half. And is it easy? Not always. Some days, yeah. Some days, no. But if you commit deeply enough to it, you just figure out how to do it. You know, many devotees have come to me and said, you know, like, we had a big festival and I was busy and I didn't chant any rounds. In my 53 years, that's only happened to me like twice. It's just I didn't allow it to happen. Generally, I don't allow it. And it didn't. The first time it happened to me was after I'd been a devotee 4 years because I fell asleep in the traveling Sankirtan about 7 o'clock. I thought I was taking a nap and I had 3 rounds left and I'll get up, but I didn't get up. But, you know, it was always like every day. We could do it. So, you know, if you want to be Krishna conscious in this life, you somehow you'll do it. You'll figure out. You'll get it done. And it's possible. But if you get initiation and you don't have the determination, you're not willing to make the changes in your life, it's better wait till you're sure. Wait till you're 50 or whatever, 40. You know, and you know the problem, right? Well, you have a spiritual name and he doesn't, and you know, he's like, if I don't get initiated, I don't have a spiritual name, I can't worship the deities, I can't, you know, people will just call me Bhakta, whatever. What's a good German name? Bhakta what? Hans? Joe. Obert. Bhakta Hans. You know about Hansaduta? Hansaduta was one of the first devotees. His name was Hans Carey. Hans Carey. He was born in Germany and then moved to America when I think he was 9. Met Prabhupada maybe in 1967. And he was getting initiated, and he said to himself, I hate my name Hans. Well, I already gave the story away. His name is Hansaduta, Adhikari. So when Prabhupada gave him the name, he said, what? He said, just add Duta and Adi. So Saduta Adi. So Hansaduta Adhikari from Hans Kari. He was really disappointed. And Prabhupada was teasing him, and he said, Srila Prabhupada was telling everybody what their name means, and he said, Prabhupada, what does my name mean? And Prabhupada said, I don't know. Well, where is it? It's in the Bhagavatam. Where? Somewhere. And then another time all the devotees were together, and they'd say, your name is so-and-so, that's, this great sage, and your name is so-and-so, it's incarnation of Krishna. And Hansaduta says, who am I, Prabhupada? He said, you are Hansaduta. For some reason, he didn't want to tell him. Duta means messenger, Hans means swan messenger. You know, it really kind of bothers me. And I hope this bothers you, and if it doesn't, I hope it bothers you now. We all know that there are people in the world today who are more dedicated to their goals than devotees are to their goals. That's embarrassing, isn't it? Like, you hear about the guy, he's up every day at 4, he's taking cold shower, he's doing pranayama and yoga, does his meditation, does his exercise, does his reading, writing, By 7 o'clock, he's like reads a book every month and, I think it's good to hear about those people, just to kind of make you feel lazy, sort of, kind of, They're so dedicated to their pursuits. I'm not as dedicated to my Krishna consciousness. That's not good. They have more faith in their goals or more determination, more focus than I have. And from what I've seen over the years, it's really hard to be Krishna conscious if you don't have some level of focus, intention, and determination, because Maya is always ready for you, It's like in boxing, if one of the boxers is a little negligent, he gets hit. See, there's some of these boxing matches, and one guy's getting clobbered, bloody face, his eyes look like oranges, puffed up. For some reason, somehow or other, the boxer that's beating him up leaves something open, and this guy hit one punch and knocks him out, This guy is almost a dead man, and he knocks him out. That happens. Not all the time, but it does happen. So you can, you don't want to leave yourself open, because Maya will be looking for that. So, that same kind of determination, if we can have that's really valuable. And if we don't have it, then we should try to figure out how to get it. Or why I don't have it and how to get it. So if I ask you, do you want to go back to Godhead? I'm sure everyone will say yes. Maybe not today, but yes. Yeah. Okay, when I'm 98 and I've got arthritis and everything, then I'll be ready to go. Okay, at some point you'll be ready to go. But then if we ask you, are you willing to do everything you need to do to be able to go, that maybe we won't get 100% buy-in. That's right. Like, would you like to be rich? Everyone says yes. Would you like to do what you have to do to be rich? Well, I don't know, it's a lot of work. Would you like to lose weight? Yeah, I'm overweight. Would you like to change your diet and do the exercise? Oh, I'd just rather take a pill. Right? So if we want to be Krishna conscious, then there's the other side of it is we have to do those things. We have to be willing to do those things. And the more important Krishna consciousness becomes for you, the easier it is to do the things that will make you Krishna conscious. Yes? So, the way I think is like, don't make it hard on yourself. Like, live in a way that makes Krishna conscious easy. Get up early enough so you can chant good rounds, you have time to read, live a sattvic lifestyle, don't spend all day on the phone. We should have a mandatory fasting day from phones. Everybody takes their phone, puts it in a basket. It's the Sabbath, social media Sabbath. Yeah, don't make it hard for yourself. And a lot of times we make it, don't we? Sometimes we make it hard for ourselves. We do things that aren't good for ourselves, and then we wonder why our rounds aren't good. Do you ever have that one? Trying to chant your rounds, and it's like, you feel like your head's full of cement. You ever have that one? Or your tongue, one devotee said, he said, what does the holy name taste like for you? She said, sand. Tastes like a sand in my mouth. You ever have that one? Sand japa? Yeah. Why does it taste like sand? Well, maybe I'm doing things in my life that are against the principles of bhakti, and then I sit down to chant and it's just difficult. So it's like, don't do things that make it difficult, do things that will help you. Common sense, right? Okay, that's what I have to say. My farewell address. Well, I'll give class tomorrow. We leave, well maybe. We leave at 9:30? If I pack and then end class at 9, we could leave at 9:30. Anyway, we'll see. See how it goes. We start at 7:45, so we can end class like 8:30, 8:40. Is that good? Das ist good. Ja, good. My grandparents grew up just right around here in Austria. Actually, I don't know what city it was. I'm close to my roots. I'm one with you. Anyone have anything else to say or anything to add, ask? Yes?
You talked about that one should not keep himself open to the attacks of the material energy. Maybe you could explain what exactly this means, keeping myself open.
Living, thinking, acting, speaking, living in the mode of passion and ignorance, as opposed to sattva or transcendence. Not being Brahminical, not being clean, regulated. Of course, there's always, overeating, oversleeping, all of that. I mean, you live in the temple. You don't have a lot of facility for Maya here. It's pretty restricted. But I think if you just become a little aware of those days when things don't go as well as other days and try to just backstep and say why. Maybe you won't know why, but maybe sometimes you will. Say, oh yeah. It was that sweet rice and halva at midnight. I think that was the problem. You want to have weird dreams, eat some curd at night, and go to sleep. You ever have that one? It's like you kind of know, oh, why did I have these dreams of monsters, and war and violence, and you go, oh, I had curd at night, or some, you just you want to go back track and say, well, what's different today? Sometimes you'll know. One time, I was really upset with a devotee. I can't remember why, but I was really upset. It was not something personal, but it was something that he did. And I was very critical. I was like, before I went to sleep, don't criticize. If you have to criticize, if you just have to, don't do it before you go to bed. So this was at night, and I guess I got some news that was this devotee, blah, blah, it was just in my mind, I was like, it wasn't yesterday, it was about 20 years ago, so don't worry, I'm okay now, I'm better. But the next morning, my rounds were on a scale of 1 to 10, they were -1. It's I couldn't chant, and I knew it was because I made an offense. It was there was no mercy there. So sometimes you got to look, what was different today? You go to the doctor, it's well, last week, I started getting stomachache. What did you do different? I don't know, what did I do? Oh, maybe it was that golf ball I ate. Oh, yeah, that's probably the problem. So it might be obvious, but you might not know until you think about it. So, okay. What's the name? What's the typical name of a woman in Germany? Lisa. Lisa. So he's asking, what was your question? What is the? Oh yeah, when Lisa joins, if you're affected, you're open. Lisa's like Miss Germany, you know. So like, if Miss Germany moves in the ashram and you're like, no problem, you don't care, you're doing good. If not, you're, be careful. You can, Prabhupada said you can evaluate, one way you can evaluate your spiritual life is just how attached or detached you're becoming, especially to things that are not good for you. You can become attached to good things, but if you're becoming attached, and if you're becoming more detached, that's a good sign. Isn't it? I mean, when we're doing well, we always feel more detached. Do you ever want to have something you don't need? Never, right? Ever since China started producing stuff we don't need, our desires for things we don't need increased, right? Because it's cheap. That could be a sign that I'm not doing well. If you don't have sufficient sadhana, you're leaving yourself open. It's like the weather's cold, you have to dress well, maybe take more vitamin C, whatever. So you don't want to leave yourself open, because you'll get sick. Now here's a real good one with Maya. You think, I'm strong, this Maya over here, it's not going to bother me. Did you ever have that one? Did you ever experience that one, right? I had that once. It was really funny. I had just done like a japa retreat, and I was like, I'm on top of the world, Maya. I'm invincible. And like the next day, she sent like one of her agents. And I started laughing. I go, okay, I'm not that strong. It was just funny. It was like, it's so amazing how Krishna is so personal. Because, I was feeling so Krishna conscious, I actually said to Krishna, send me Maya, because it's not like, I'm not going to melt. And he sent some fire. I mean, I didn't melt that much, but it was just that I melted a little bit, and that was more than I thought I was going to melt, and I just started laughing. I go, okay, Krishna, I got the message. It was funny. It was just circumstantial. I was doing some work, and there was a woman who was helping temporarily, and she wasn't really dressed well. And I was like, great, I'm transcendental, I chant japa. But I wasn't as transcendental as I thought. So that's a good form of Maya, like, Maya can't touch me. And then you get a little loose because you think you can, right? But it's funny, because if you're strong, you'll have principles, so you wouldn't be loose in the first place. So the fact that you're loose, thinking, I can be loose because I'm strong, is a sign you're not strong. Because if you were strong, you wouldn't be loose. Right? Don't worry, he's a sannyasi, he's like in a room alone with women, he's transcendental. Well, if he's transcendental, he wouldn't be alone with a woman. Right? Yeah, Maya's great, she's like fool you one way or another. So be careful. And if all else fails, eat more gulab jamans. So here's my story about how prasadam saved me. This is such an interesting story. Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
I was in a temple in San Diego, California, and we had 3 sets of deities, and we had 18 devotees. So if you do the numbers, 3 plates a day times 6 offering, that's 18 plates. So every devotee basically got equivalent of maha of 1 plate. But there was always extra maha, because like Nobody could eat. We had so much, 18 daily sweets, plus Mongol sweets. And so we decided, I don't know, there was a problem serving maha for breakfast. People would come late and you're trying to serve maha and you don't know how many people are coming. So we just said, we made a policy. First come, first serve for maha. Right? And then, if you come late, there won't be any. So there was some reason we were doing that. And I had been sick for a week. And I had been sleeping like 10, 12, 13 hours a day. Have you ever done that? Slept 12, 13 hours a day for a week? Not on purpose because you're sick. By the end of the week, it's like, you don't want to be a devotee. You basically don't want to be anything. And it was like, Chandramauli Swami said that Prabhupada said, of eating, sleeping, mating, defending, sleeping is the worst. Like oversleeping is worse. This is interesting. Anyway, I was a young devotee, about 2 years in the movement, 2 or 3 max. And I had a flu, I don't know what, but I was sleeping all day for like 5, 6 days. And I finally, on the 7th day, went to temple, and I was totally do I even want to be a devotee? It was like the first time I ever had a doubt. And I think the only time in my life that I ever thought, I don't know if I want to be a devotee, it's too hard, right? So anyway, I got to the temple. I was better now. I got to the temple for prasadam, And nobody was there. And the policy, or maybe the policy, maybe I helped make the policy like the day before. And then so I'm there and nobody's there. And then the Maha's there. I'm like, okay, Sandash, Rasgula, Burfi, it's all mine. And I just started doing what any 22-year-old dumb devotee would do and just eat it all, eat as much as I can. But, I didn't eat all of it, but I ate a lot of it. And after I ate it, I was I felt so Krishna conscious. I was seriously, it's why would I ever want to leave Krishna consciousness? It was just all that week of Tamagun was cleared with Maha. So that's my joke sometimes. Someone says, Prabhu, I have this problem and it's complicated and this and that, And I go, I think you need to eat more gulab jamans. I think that's the solution. And sometimes, although it sounds funny, sometimes that is the solution. Isn't it? Just come to a kirtan, eat prasadam, and it's everything's fine. And we have that, one devotee, he said that he was coming to Krishna consciousness, and then he met Prabhupada. Prabhupada gave him a sweet ball. And he said, when he put the sweet ball in his mouth and he chewed it, at that moment he decided to become a devotee. And move in the temple when he chewed it. So, you want to hear another story about prasadam? This is beautiful. I have to give you a little background. But in America, when book distribution was at its height, it was because we were pretty much in all the major airports distributing books in the country, because they were public places and they had protection, freedom of speech protection, even though they were privately owned, but they were public spaces. So the airports were different in those days. You know how now when you go to the airport, if there's no flight, if there's no flight attendants around, well, for some reason, the people behind the counter, I think in those days that you bought, in those days you just went to the airport and bought your ticket. You didn't unless you're going overseas or something, it's like a bus station. I'm flying to Riga tomorrow, so we would just drive to the airport, get there an hour or two before, and then we'd buy a ticket. Isn't that weird? And you wouldn't even, there's always planes, every hour there's a plane going to Riga, every hour there's So a lot of these workers, they're there all day behind the counter because people could come at any time. So there's not big lines. So they're looking at us, getting all the money. saying, "Excuse me, sir, can you give a donation for the book?" And he gives you $1 and say, "Do you have change? I have a lot of ones. Could I give you change for 20?" And then he gives you 20, thinking you'll give back 19, and you give him back like 5. And you go, "Well, a lot of people are giving 15. Can you do that?" And you're just like, no, I'll give you 5. And he goes away mad. And so they're watching this. They're seeing this. And gradually, they started turning against us. And just the fact that we were talking to their passengers, their clients, they didn't like it. So it got to a point in some airports where they would follow you around and they would tell people not to buy the books. It's a cult, these are Hare Krishnas, these books are this and that, don't buy them. So there were some people at the airport that really hated us. We had one guy, we called him the Lummox. Lummox like a big monster. You have that word in German, Lummox? So he would walk by and the guy was 150 kgs and he'd just knock into you. And he would get people who took books and he'd go, "You don't want this book, it's stupid." And we'd get the book and he'd rip it up in front of us, throw it in the trash, write things on the cover, tape the cover, like that. Really, really bad. So you have the rest areas here. We have a picnic tables and like that, and a restroom. You have those here? Well, in California, it's just vending machines. There's no restaurants or anything. And we found some church organization or charity organization selling food there, for donations. So we thought, okay, we could do that also. So then we went out there and, we were cooking pakoras out at the rest area, and that's one guy, we cook them, put them in a little container, and people have samples, they taste them. This guy's tasting it. And usually when people come to the table, they just look at the food, they don't look at us. We were all in dhotis. So he's tasting it, he's eating it, he likes it, and then he all of a sudden looks up and he's like, "Are you guys Hare Krishnas?" He said, "Yeah." He goes, I'm your biggest enemy at the airport." And he goes, "But these pakoras are great." So we saw transformation with prasadam, right on the spot, a greatest enemy at the airport. Don't take that lightly. It was probably really bad. And he ate the pakora, and everything changed. So there is truth to that. When you have problems, eat more gulabs. And then, do you know the story when a devotee had a problem? "Prabhupada, I need to talk to you. I have a problem." Prabhupada said, "Okay, but let's do kirtan first." They did kirtan, and Prabhupada said, "Okay, problem." And the devotee said, "No problem." So sometimes it's just, a little shift. Come to the temple, have a sangha, and things get better, right? Hare Krishna. Was that the answer to your question? Was I still answering your question, or was I responding to somebody else? What? Oh, your question, yeah. I thought it was still on yours. There's another thing. This is weird. Sometimes we know what the Maya is, but we don't want to admit it because we like it. You ever had that one? Nice Maya. You know about nice Maya? Have you heard about nice Maya? You know the story about nice Maya? I think it was on an Air India airplane, because Air India in the 70s was it was actually Indian culture. All the women were in saris. Maybe they still are. They didn't play rock and roll when the plane took off and landed. They played Ravi Shankar. So it was Indian culture. It represented the culture. And so when the plane landed, they were playing Ravi Shankar. Or somewhere the devotees heard Ravi Shankar. And devotees think, "Oh, it's So nice, Prabhupada, isn't it? Prabhupada said it's like it's sense gratification music. But it's sitar, Prabhupada. It's raga. And Prabhupada said it's Maya. No, but it's raga. And then Prabhupada said it's nice Maya. Like Maya in the mode of goodness. You know. So sometimes we're attached to something and it's not good for us, but we don't want to admit it's not good for us because if we admitted it, we'd have to stop doing it. Right? Yeah. Once these young devotees, they started a band, and their parents wanted me. I was with one of my godbrothers, Gunagrai Maharaj, and they wanted us to hear the band. So, they're like 17. So we went over there. That was austerity for us to listen to it, right? I'm like, what is this? And like every 4 minutes, Krishna! Govinda! It's something like that, like it's like, well, at least I said Krishna, it's Krishna conscious music, isn't it? And you don't want to just face the fact that you're just using Krishna for your Maya. So, sometimes it's hard. We are attached, and we have to be willing to acknowledge this is not good for me. It's not always easy. Not always easy, but always necessary. Right? It's Maya. Yeah, it's like a Bhakta Burfi cartoon. Bhakta Burfi, it's Maya. I know, but it's good Maya. It's nice Maya. It's not ordinary Maya. It's special Maya. Rags. We can stop? Or? Yes, thank you very much. So I'll see you tomorrow morning for my farewell address. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.